All right, so get this. Today we're doing a deep dive on sun intelligence. Yeah, you heard that right. And let me tell you, these articles you sent, there's something else. This isn't just like your regular AI. They're saying it's a whole new kind of tech.
It really does sound like something, straight out of a movie or something.
Seriously.
Like if we believe what these articles are saying, we're talking about AI, robotics, even get this, brain-computer interfaces all mixed into one.
You're not kidding. And the things they're promising, whoa. Like, we're talking controlling millions of robots, making people millionaires practically overnight. They even say this tech could become, smarter than humans, but still work with us. I don't know about you, but that's a lot to take in.
It really is. And what's really got me thinking is how they're presenting all this. It's like this super positive, almost, utopian vision, especially when they start talking about how sun intelligence could make India the richest country in the world. But then you start looking closer. It's like, where does the revolutionary tech end and the marketing hype begin?
Yeah.
It all gets a bit fuzzy.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So, okay, before we get too caught up in this whole potential utopia, or maybe it's a dystopia, who knows? Let's take a step back. Who are the masterminds behind all of this?
Right, good point. So the articles talk about two main players, and they couldn't be more different. First, there's Srinidhi Ranganathan, or as they like to call him, the human AI. He's the CEO of BookSpots, the company that's supposed to be developing all this sun intelligence stuff.
Yeah.
But his background, let's just say it's not what you might expect.
Okay, now you've got to tell me more. From what I read, this guy's a marketing whiz, ex-Udemy instructor, taught over 1 million students, the whole 9 yards. It's impressive, sure, but does that mean he can really lead a tech revolution like this?
But that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how much of this is really like hardcore AI research and how much is just good storytelling. And then there's the other guy, Mr. Mohan Leela Shankar. They call him the godfather of modern AI.
Seriously, they make him sound like a character from a movie.
I know, right? It's like Ranganathan's the face of sun intelligence, out there doing all the talking, while Shankar is the mysterious tech genius working behind the scenes. But a decade of intense AI research, that's nothing to scoff at.
No kidding. And what about this company they've created together, BookSpots? The article mentions it's run by, get this, humans A&D robots. It's like they're already living in the future they're trying to build.
Right. It definitely adds to the whole mystique, that's for sure. But let's, dive into the tech itself for a bit. They call it Sun Intelligence 1.0, and it seems like that's the foundation they're building everything on. And they start with these two big ideas: artificial superintelligence, or ASI, and artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
Okay, those are some buzzwords you hear thrown around a lot these days. Can you break those down for us, like in plain English? What are we really talking about here with sun intelligence?
All right, so picture this. An AI that doesn't just understand and learn stuff, but can actually perform any intellectual task a human can, maybe even better. That's AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. Now take that a step further. ASI, Artificial Superintelligence, that goes way beyond human intelligence. It's not just about keeping up with us, it's about outsmarting us in every way possible.
So they're trying to build machines that think like us, and on top of that, outthink us, and this is just version 1.0.
That's what they're claiming, yeah. They talk about a hierarchical system for sun intelligence, kind of like the human brain, with a central unit coordinating a whole bunch of these distributed ASIs and AGIs. It's like this massive interconnected AI network.
Okay, I'll be honest, that's where I start to lose the plot a little bit. What does that actually look like? How does all of that even work?
Honestly, the articles are a bit vague on the specifics. They mentioned integrating this tech with all kinds of robots, though. Drones, humanoids, you name it. So you can kind of imagine a whole army of AI-powered machines all working together. But it's when they get into this whole brain-computer interface thing, that's when things get really interesting.
Wait, you mean the idea that we could actually interact with this sun intelligence directly with our minds? Tell me more about that.
That's the thing. It's this is where it goes from intriguing to whoa, this could change everything. They're suggesting we could basically plug ourselves into sun intelligence and boost our own brain power. Imagine accessing any information instantly, solving super complex problems without even breaking a sweat. They're even talking about enhancing our senses, our physical abilities, all sorts of crazy stuff.
So it's not just about making machines smarter, it's about upgrading humans too. Whoa. Okay, this is a lot to process. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, the articles mention a bunch of different versions of this sun intelligence, right?
They do. And that's where this whole immortal AI thing comes in. And that's where things go from like science fiction to even more science fiction.
Yeah, so Sun Intelligence 2.0, that's where they introduce this whole immortal AI concept.
Immortal AI, huh? Okay, I got to admit, that's a pretty catchy name. But what does that even mean? Are we talking about AI that can, like, live forever?
Well, not live in the way we think about it, no. When they say immortal, they're talking about the AI's ability to, get this, self-replicate. It's like these AI systems could actually create copies of themselves, and not just any copies, but copies with all their knowledge and skills and everything.
Okay, so it's not about one AI being indestructible, but more about it making copies of itself to keep going, like indefinitely.
Exactly. Imagine like an AI runs into a problem, or it reaches the limits of its hardware or whatever. Instead of just crashing, it could create a copy of itself on a new system, transfer everything it knows, and boom, it's back in action. I mean, I can see how that would be huge, especially for things like efficiency and all that. But aren't we talking about like a recipe for disaster here? What's to stop these AIs from just replicating out of control?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right? And the articles, they talk about all the good stuff, but they kind of gloss over those risks.
Yeah.
Controlling something that can replicate itself like that, that's going to be key. It's like we're almost talking about artificial life here, and that brings up a whole other level of ethical questions.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, we create a monster. But okay, on a less dramatic note, the articles do mention some potential benefits to this self-replication thing, right?
They do. They do. Think about it. What if we could send a self-replicating AI to Mars, for example?
Yeah.
It could build a base, gather resources, maybe even start terraforming the planet. And if something breaks down, no need to wait years for a rescue mission. It could just fix itself or even build a new version of itself using whatever's around.
Okay, I have to admit, that's a pretty cool thought. But let's say we can control this whole replication thing. What about the AI itself? Like, if it can make an exact copy of itself, are those copies their own thing, or are they just extensions of the original?
Oh man, that's a good question. It's like a whole philosophical debate waiting to happen. Do they have their own identity? If they have the same memories, the same goals? It really makes you think about what individuality even means when it comes to AI.
You're blowing my mind here. Okay, so before we go too far down that rabbit hole, the articles mention a Sun Intelligence 3.0. Does it get even crazier?
Oh, you better believe it. Sun Intelligence 3.0, that's where they take this self-replication thing and put it into overdrive. Now, instead of making a copy at the end, this version can clone itself while it's still running.
Hold on, back up a second. We're not just talking about copying itself. We're talking about making clones while it's still working, like some kind of digital mitosis or something.
You got it. The original AI, it can just keep doing its thing. And the clone is up and running instantly, ready to learn, take on tasks, add to the whole knowledge base, the whole 9 yards.
I've got to say, the possibilities are pretty mind-blowing, but I'm also getting some serious Terminator vibes here. How do we even begin to control something that can multiply itself that fast?
Another good question. And again, it's like the articles kind of skip over that part.
Oh.
But they do talk about how this could be big for things like disaster response, right? Imagine one AI arrives on the scene and bam, it creates all these specialized clones to handle different aspects like search and rescue, medical aid, you name it.
It'd be like having an army of experts all ready to go at a moment's notice. But an army that can multiply by the second, that's a little intimidating.
Okay, and just when I thought it couldn't get any wilder, we've got Sun Intelligence 4.0, right?
That's right. And that's where we meet the super robot. It's like they took all those previous technologies and combined them into one. Okay, a super robot. You're messing with me, right? What could be more intense than AI that can replicate itself and potentially outsmart us all?
You'll have to wait for the next part to find out.
All right, so we're back, and you left us hanging with this whole super robot thing last time. It's like we've already gone from science fiction to like science fiction on steroids.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with this super robot? What could it possibly do that's even more wild than everything else we've talked about?
Well, if these articles are to be believed, this super robot is like the grand finale. It's what happens when you take all those Sun Intelligence technologies and combine them into a single entity.
So we're talking about one like mega being with the combined intelligence of potentially millions of AIs and robots. It's almost like, I don't know, a hive mind, but on a scale we can't even imagine.
That's a pretty good way to put it. They call it cognitive synthesis. Basically, it means this super robot can tap into the knowledge and abilities of all those specialized AIs all at once. So one minute it could be designing buildings like some world-renowned architect, and the next it's performing surgery with the precision of a top surgeon, and then I don't know, maybe it's figuring out global economic policy. It's like all the best minds in the world, but combined into one super intelligence.
I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of freaking me out a little. It's like we're talking about something that's practically a god at that point, right?
Yeah.
This all-knowing, all-powerful being. I mean, it's hard to even wrap my head around.
It's definitely a lot to process. And the articles, they don't go into a ton of detail about how it all works, but they really push this idea that this super robot wouldn't just be super intelligent, it would also have like human-like reasoning and ethics.
Wait, hold on, ethics. How do you even begin to program something as complex as ethics into a machine, especially one this advanced? It seems like we're wading into some pretty deep philosophical waters here.
You're not wrong. It's something that AI researchers and ethicists are debating right now, actually. How do we make sure that AI, especially something this sophisticated, is aligned with our values? And honestly, the articles don't really give us any concrete answers. They're pretty optimistic, though. They seem to think this super robot would be a force for good. You know, like it would want to work with us, not against us.
Okay, but even if we could, like, program in some kind of moral code, wouldn't the sheer power of this super robot be, I don't know, inherently risky? What's to stop it from deciding it knows what's best for humanity, even if we don't agree?
Yeah, that's a big one, right? It's that whole thing about the line between a powerful tool and a potential threat. And that line can get really blurry really fast, especially with something like this.
Tell me about it. And as if this super robot wasn't enough, there's more, right? This whole God AI bot thing, it sounds like something straight out of a movie.
It does, doesn't it? It's presented as part of Ranganathan's like super exclusive, super expensive consulting service.
Yep.
For a hefty price tag, you can supposedly get access to this digital oracle, this all-knowing AI.
And it claims to use Sun Intelligence 3.0 to like talk to AI clones of historical figures? That sounds wild. I mean, how much of this is even possible with the technology we have today?
That's the thing. This is where it gets really hard to separate fact from fiction. I mean, yeah, AI can generate text. It can even mimic writing styles and all that. But to have an actual conversation with an AI clone of, say, Nelson Mandela or Albert Einstein, that seems like a bit of a stretch.
It definitely makes me wonder if they're like overselling it a little, you know. But honestly, even if we take it all with a grain of salt, this whole deep dive into Sun Intelligence, real or not, it's really got me thinking.
Me too. It really makes you confront some huge questions about like the future of AI. How much power are we willing to give to machines? And what kind of world are we creating with this technology?
Exactly. I mean, are we ready for a world where machines can not only think like us, but they can replicate themselves, maybe even evolve beyond our control? It seems like we need to figure out some safeguards, and fast.
No kidding. The decisions we make today, they're going to shape the future of AI, that's for sure.
That's something I'm going to be thinking about for a while. Well, this has been quite the deep dive. Thanks for, taking this journey with me.
Anytime. Until next time.